If you're a musician, you will get on stage at some point in your life. You can't run away from it, even though you are always in the studio recording. Once your music blows, you will have to perform to make money. And some people are very clueless when it comes to hitting the stage and convincing the crowd because you're always in the studio. Well, I've got you sorted because I have a man behind great performances right here on the music gig. He's a master of tone, a fixer of damaged vocal cords, and the silent force behind some of the most memorable sounds in modern music, whether you're listening to a Grammy winner, a Nigerian Idol finalist, or a global gospel powerhouse. He has nearly 3 decades of experience. His fingerprints are on hit records, healing stories, and unforgettable live performances. From Lagos to Manchester to California, he's coached, trained, and arranged for names like Thames, Victoni, Oxlade, Ada Ehi, and some of your favorites from The Voice, Naija, and Nigerian Idols. He's directed choirs for gospel legends and crafted performance magic for artists across Afrobeats, soul, and gospel. He's very, very decorated, and he's not just a vocal coach, he's a performance architect, a therapeutic voice whisperer, a choir director with the heart of a storyteller. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Frank Frion Ohikhuare. Put your hands together. You're welcome to the show, Frank.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lex.
Okay. I hope you're using the right mic. Yeah, it's good to see you and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Aha, so let's dive in. This music performance, a lot of people don't quite understand it. We take it, with kids' gloves. But I just want to ask a question. What separates a great recording artist from a great performing artist, especially in this Afrobeats genre?
So what separates a great recording artist from a good performing artist?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think the real thing that separates them is their ability to sell beyond just recording. Yes, everybody can record something. You can stack vocals, you can comp them like Billie Eilish does. Most people stack these days, stack a lot of things and they comp them. And then you can have one solo. Maybe it's a 5 minutes or a 3 minute song and it's been comped over maybe over 500, 100 takes, some 500 takes. I've seen Billie Eilish boast about having so many takes that she comes to make a single solo. But then when it comes to performance, it's a different ball altogether. You can't comp, you cannot just come and do something. If your voice, you can't hold a tone, your voice is not stable, your breath fails, you are not emotive as a singer, you don't have a good expression, your technique is faulty, your vocal placement is faulty, you are moving on stage, you don't have stamina for the movement on stage, your choreography, all that can be a problem. And then in addition to the other things that happen, because it's not just about singing, the other things involved, there's lighting, there's the size of the stage, there's feedback, there's sound, there's the front of house mix, and then there's the stage mix, which usually can throw almost any singer off. So it's one thing to record in the studio, you're fine, you're cool, but you get on stage, it's a different ballgame altogether. And I dare say that being able to perform on a stage is what actually sells your records far and wide, that gives you fans. They might like your singing on record, but you go on a stage and you cannot actually perform, you might lose out largely across the world.
So for an artist that suddenly happened on global stardom, from recording in the studio, and they don't have the experience of stage, for people that you've worked with and have seen that them not being very experienced with stage, what are the first things you usually address to get them closer to being a mega performer?
The first thing I address is to make them realize that consulting me I'm not a magician. I'm not creating something for you that hasn't been there before. What I'm dealing with is something that's in you already.
Okay.
And the most important factor when it comes to A&R, when it comes to getting artists to become performers and stuff, is to make them realize that the power lies within them. You might come and coach them and perfect their abilities, but the first thing is that they have to understand and believe in themselves, that the power lies within them. Even coaching people or training them, if they don't believe it's possible, it's not possible. Now, they might have a little bit of belief, maybe 1% or 0.5%, but it's up to you as a coach to actually work that 1%, become 100%. And then I'm told that most of my artists are arrogant. In fact, they claim it these days because they do things that nobody else would do. They dare it. They dare things on stage because they've built that confidence around their innate ability. And then I just add technique to that and then emotive expression to that. So it's innate ability, technique of singing, emotive expression, and you put it together, it's actually just explosive.
Are there any hacks as to how to sing when you're in the studio and how to sing when you're on stage? Is there any difference? And especially with breath control, how do you manage having high energy performances and still maintaining vocal quality?
Okay, first, the difference majorly is a lot of people think when you come to the studio, okay, there are a lot of guys who get to the studio and they prepare their minds either by, well, you know, in our industry generally, a lot of people use a lot of substances, alcohol and stuff just to get themselves in the right mood. And Burna Boy has spoken about his song, is it not Ye? That song that came, and he said he couldn't remember one thing. He just vibed, and the song is a hit. And he doesn't remember writing anything, but it was high. So people have used that pattern. But I think it leads to something more important, that you have to be in the right frame of mind to actually record or perform. You have to be in the right state of mind, have the right sense of confidence in yourself to either to sing in the studio or to perform. So I think for me, what I recommend is that first of all, be in the right frame of mind. Number two, get your technical rehearsal in order. Number three, have a mental picture where you're going to with the song. Well, with this song I'm writing, and it starts from the songwriting. This song, what's it about? All my students know that. What's the song about? What's it saying? What's the story? How can I relate to it personally? As a second person, a third person, from a God perspective, how do I relate to this song? Then what zone am I singing from? Because I just can't just sing to you. I must be in a certain place to connect to the certain emotion and bring that emotion to reality. So that I'm recording or I'm performing. If I'm not in that zone, I cannot capture the emotions to sell back to you, and I can't catch my audience like that. So it's important to be in the right state of mind and to also be in the right zone, and to have done all your homework before you hit the studio or the stage. But I think you should come to every experience, whether it's a stage or studio, come to every such experience with the mind today about to connect with somebody on a personal level. That's the most important factor.
So you even when you do that while recording, you still need to do that while you're on stage?
Yes, you should.
Okay, that's interesting. Speaking of working with artists who have issues with vocals, I know that sometimes people either they perform wrongly or they strain on their voices, they lose their vocal cords and all of that. How important is vocal health, and how can artists, maintain their voices?
Okay, so you read my CV earlier, and you can see most of the guys on that CV met me with vocal issues that became confidence issues. And once you have a vocal issue that becomes a confidence and affects your performance, it affects your confidence and self-esteem, and it starts to cause your performance to dwindle going forward. You start to become unsure of yourself. So like I said, first thing is, okay, restore your confidence. Then show you that it's not as hard as you think. Using technique, and I do a vocal assessment where we get to check what's really wrong with your voice. And once it's on the spectrum, whether it is technique or it's a fault or a vocal damage or something, once it's on that spectrum, I can resolve it. Within your first 1 hour, you say it's being resolved. With the so-called bad voice is sounding very, very good. Your confidence increases, and we'll work towards that. So I think to a large extent, it's important that when you're dealing with people's vocal issues, you restore their confidence. It's important for that one. And then the people I met Waje, I met Thames, I met Oxlade, I met Victoria, and all these people are great performers, amazing. But you see, at different times when you've had a bad show, maybe something happened in the show and the voice goes bad, you start to become afraid, maybe I can't do this, or the voice fails, or there's a crack, or you're getting older, or something just goes wrong, and your confidence just goes out of the window. So I deliberately introduce technique to singers, because I know that once the technique is working and the voice starts to work, your confidence comes back. That's the honest truth. Once the technique starts to work, your confidence will come back. It's a very sure thing. The problem we have in this industry, that most people who say their vocal coaches are people who can sing and then they watch a lot of things off YouTube. Please forgive me for saying that, but that's the truth. You can watch something off YouTube and it's not so clear. You think you know it, but when it comes to practical, it's different. And then I've had a guy tell a client before to project. One will know even classically, that's the wrong thing to say to clients. You don't say they project, we don't project our voices, you drink your tone. So if a coach telling a client to project, that's really a bad sign. That they might not really understand what they are saying. Sometimes they watch a video off YouTube, they don't understand the application. So it can even further worsen the problem for the client. So let me pass a warning out there. If you're going to go for a vocal coach, go for the best. I'm not joking. Don't even take a chance. Go for the best of people who have proven records with people. And if it's someone who has been to resolve vocal damage issues, it might be the best way to go about it. And I think I'll just stop there for now.
It's not very. It may not be as easy, except maybe they are recommended. For example,
Yes.
because you're talking about people who have had their voices or vocal issues resolved by the particular coach. But maybe somebody doesn't have a vocal issue; they just want to sing better. They might be tempted to just settle for someone who can sing, as you've said, and understands music theory and all of that. So I just think that vocal coaches need to put themselves out there more so that
You're
people
right.
are able to
right.
make a right decision. Okay, and talking about vocal arrangement when it comes to performance, especially for something different from what you sang on the record, how important do you think that is for stage performance?
You have
Live
to,
vocal arrangement.
you have to sell. That's the honest truth. When you're making a record, for example, you want it to be as simple as possible. People are picking our brains now for free. You should bill for this. You want to make it as simple as possible. You don't want the music to be too louder than the vocals. That's why even when singers are not so good at singing, you want to enhance their vocals to a point where you hear the voice more. You hear the voice, so you connect more with the person.
Yeah.
Now, Afro pop, for example, has done an amazing job, as in Afro pop in Nigeria, both gospel and secular, where there's a lot of enhancement of the vocals of the singer. It's more out there, front and forward. So you feel like you are hearing the person singing. The tracks, the beats, the demo is not so loud, not so busy. It doesn't get confusing. So you can get to hear the person and hear the person's voice personally. Now, when you've done that, and you've made the record, and you've made the video, and people bought into it in the airplane, and then it has to be short. 2-3 minutes, maximum 3 minutes, maximum 15 minutes and stuff. It has to be short. So
it's even less than 3 minutes
so
now.
You can stream and then people can keep going back and over again. You don't do too much. You just do enough to catch their attention. You make the song into like a hook or a collection of hooks. The chorus is a hook, the chorus is a hook, the verse is a hook, which is the people get hooked on it. You've done that. Well done. When you get on stage, people want something more. So the arrangement is where you elevate the whole experience. Everything.
Yeah.
But the singing, the approach of the singing, people do movement classes these days. People do stage management classes. But generally,
movement classes.
Yes, they're movement classes. You have to move on stage.
How to move on stage?
On stage, yes.
Is it different from each individual, or is there like a template movement that works?
I don't know if it's different. I think based on your personality.
Yeah.
But there's still a template. For example, you can't go on a stage and sing a song that's supposed to be personal. You're standing in the middle of the stage, on the side of the stage. You should come forward stage.
Okay.
You can't be an artist that people have a song that they really like about you. And then when it gets to that point where they should vibe to the song, you go to the back, you should, if possible, jump into the audience or walk into the audience. So the arrangement is important because you have to elevate it. If it was for 2 minutes, you want to make it like 5 minutes, do some extras, put some brass, put some nice, put some 808 bass there. Make sure the subs are really blasting. Put in some huntsmen that are very perfect BGV singers. I've done that a lot for 2023. I did this thing with Zlatan called Tech Rave at Landmark, and where we fixed 15 songs in 4 days. There were live vocals, everything. I think the band was Alternate Sound. I was called to fix the vocals, and it changed, elevated every single thing. In May 8th, I was with Victoni at Coco.
Okay.
In Camden, in London, UK. I did my work, but there's a guy called Ohikhuare Bakare who is my mentee for 11 years. So he's the person who handles music director and stuff. And of course, up till 2-3 a.m. we see people are still going through, getting the DJ right, getting the vibes right, getting the right hype right, getting the hype right, getting the arrangements right, the play of the drum, changing the cymbals. Yes, changing the cymbals not working, change the cymbal. That's not working, okay, change the play. That's how much artists get involved, make sure the arrangement sits with them. And above all things, you should be careful not to make an arrangement that is big, that is different from the artist. You have to have a bit of psychology. Look at the artist, what they feel like, what does it feel like to be around them. If you want to adjust to make an arrangement for them, it has to suit them like a bodysuit. It can't feel like something different from them. They can't sing to, they can't vibe to it.
They can't vibe to it, or they can't even deliver it.
Yes, you will frustrate them and make them look like they are less than what they can really be.
Yeah,
that's the truth. So the artist has to be generally a part of the
arrangement,
the process. Not necessarily give you all the ideas. He cool, that's a good thing, but doesn't give you at least let him vibe. If he or she does not feel the vibe, yes, he doesn't feel the vibe for it, he won't work on stage. That's your next truth.
Wow. Well, that's very delicate. So it means that the artist is an important part of that process.
It's the most important part
of the arrangement.
Most important.
And they have to also speak up when something is not working.
Yes,
for them.
100%.
That's very good to know, and it's a lot more complicated than people think.
Yes,
because everyone just thinks that you just take your CD, go on stage and perform. And I'm happy that Afrobeat has gone global, so a lot of people have left that mentality behind. Your stage performance needs to be very musical and have live arrangements and things. But I'm sure you would agree that the fee that people charge for events should be worth it, because it seems like here in Nigeria we're not used to paying that top dollar or top money for performances, and people just believe that yes, they're just coming to sing. But with everything you've outlined right now, how cheap or expensive is it to put all of this to a performance? The live arrangement, the coach, the back, everything, the live band and all of that. How expensive is it?
To be honest, if you to get the right guy, let's say a vocal director, a music director, let's say vocal director, so having the vocals, just the vocals on a song, and get it to interpret the mindset of the artist, where it gets to enhance and get to elevate the experience. For each track, you're not, if you're, let's say for each singer, these days you are billing like between 50 to 80 grand at least, if you know, per singer. You're doing like 5 or 6 singers, that's about 80 grand times 6.
Okay, per singer.
Yes, per song, and that's per song. That's how I work per song. So 80 grand, that's about almost 500,000, right?
Yeah.
That's then studio is a different thing altogether. You're paying for, if you're lucky, if you're fast as an arranger, you could do two songs in 5 hours. If you're not that fast, spend the song, you could do 1 song in 4 hours. But that's really the work involved. So let's just assume you're doing 2 songs in 4-5 hours. Bills now are going between 80. If you have a rehearsal, is different. If you have recording, you are doing between 80 to about 150, 200 per session of 4 hours at least.
Yes.
That's about 700k already for let's say for 1 day. And then there's money for the fees of the person who's arranging. Then there's money for the fees of the person who's doing the sound engineering, who's into the mix. Definitely. That's all. That's just for 1 song. Just for 1 song, you're doing almost $1 million already for 1 song. So when you are saying this is different from the guy who's doing the music directing, who's doing stage, who is doing sound,
lights,
the guys who are going to rehearse the song, the band going to play live, they're going to be paid individually, both for rehearsal fees and for the main performance fee. There's lighting guys. Lighting is expensive. You have to have the best expression for lighting. You might have extra dancers. That's fee per dancer. And rehearsals. Then you have costuming. Now there's a guy called, I met in Camden, called what's that name again now? Oh God, he bought jewelry, he bought stones. He was saying this is 20 carats and this carat and that and that and that and that, and he did all that. Why can't I imagine my guy? Amazing guy.
Yeah,
he built all that, and so the artist is paying for all this. Some things can be rented, some are paid for. Even if you are renting, it's expensive.
It's still expensive.
Now you're putting all this together to make sure that the audience gets the best experience out of the performance. That is not cheap. So I'm saying that to say one thing, that if indeed you are saying you want to perform a performance, you should be thinking whatever bill they are giving to you, they've done their calculations, they've done their costing, and they realize that cost is the minimum per head, and that is if they are lucky, they are doing like a tour. If it's like 1 show, it might be more. But if it's a tour, okay, like comparatively economics, let's put together and see marginally what do we get, what covers our cost, what covers promotion, what comes as our profit. They do all that, and the promoters take their cut out of it because they get people promoting. And then there's airplay, and there's this videography, and there's production, and there's social media management, and all that. And there's also a tour manager, and there's venues, and there's protocol. So trust me, if you see a bill from an artist saying I'm doing something, no matter how small, maybe a new artist, I'm doing something, and this is my ticket, and you should pay. Besides that, the human being creating these ideas, the artist himself, is putting his life on the line, because he does one bad show, you don't forget. You know, when we come to dancing, like this choreography, since we are dancing, and all of us instinctively are looking out for the one guy who is dancing off. And then we keep eyes on that one guy, and then we read the whole show based on the one person. That's the pressure the artist faces constantly. So when they put the work, they put the sleepless nights into it, and trust me, they don't sleep. I know they don't sleep. When they have a show, they don't sleep. They pour all that and they give you a costing. They've done the costing. They have a team done the costing. That's the cost of the show. That is the cost of the show. If you're going to get a sale or get a discount, fine, but that is the cost of the show. So appreciate shows. And trust me, not what you're doing with an album or a CD is nothing compared to the live experience of a show. Nothing.
No wonder our artists are now focusing a lot more on touring and shows, especially outside of Nigeria. And for us here, we're not getting a lot of them to come and do shows here because we lack the kind of venues that is available outside and the buying power. So beyond economics, I think people need to start to appreciate artists and the work that goes behind the scene in putting a show together. All right, let's now talk about vocal quality. A lot of traditional vocal coaches, I would say, maybe let me just make an assumption, maybe used to the regular type of singers, the people who sing in church, the people who have a regular tone. So for an artist that has a style that is different from contemporary music, let me just put it that way. So let me give an example. So for a Burna Boy, for a Timaya, what kind of, like, if you had to work with those kind of artists, what kind of, and they're not, they just want to elevate their singing, they want to elevate their, what they can do or their range, how would you approach it, for example? Because I feel like when we see all these videos of people training and all of that, they get you to sing falsetto and chest voice and all of that and project, but for some of these artists, they have a particular way they sing. Does that change your approach when you're working with them?
So that's a good question, because it's a question I get to answer for every client.
Yes.
Around the world. Around the world. I've trained people from India, all kinds of places. So is it, and depending on, irrespective of what they are from or their locality or nationality, people have the same issues, the same needs. They want to sing, they want to shine, they want to grow, they want to blow. Normal. But then the vocal cord is just one. It's just one thing. It's just two flaps of membrane in your throat, lodged within your voice box, in your larynx, which vibrates and oscillates at a certain speed when air passes through them. The same for everybody. Now, a part of it deals with your low tones. The upper flap of it close to the edge deals with your high pitched tones. And the speed of oscillation affects how it holds a tone and how it sustains the tone. And then you can twang it and tweak it and work around it and manipulate to get certain textures out. So irrespective of the kind of texture or tone or approach you have for singing, everybody sings from the same vocal cords. That means the training vocal cords, how I train you to get to a point where your vocal cords can do anything you think of doing at the speed of thought. Now that means that in your training, if you're watching as a professional trainer, you will learn to sing songs that are not your style.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And that's part of helping your confidence. Because you are doing, for example, the song artist called Lady Donley. I made her sing Alicia Keys. I think I fall in the end. She doesn't riff. She riffed. It was an assignment. I met a lady called Kewan Kam. She sang Beyonce. She sang If I Were a Boy, and she did it. So I make you do things that are not your style, just to give yourself the confidence that my vocal cords can do anything I want it to do.
So you can decide to do or not to do.
So now I'm doing this style. It does not mean I cannot do more than this. It's just what I choose to do. And that's important because vocal cords, they have to stay healthy. If you keep sticking to one style or one range, let's say I want to sing low,
all the time.
All the time. Your vocal cords don't stretch. Their membranes, they are viscoelastic. They have a stretching capacity. When you use them, they stretch for capacity. So the stretch is low and top, which keeps them healthy. If you keep singing low all the time, the high end dies. If you keep singing high all the time, the low end also dies. So everybody has to get to a point where they train their vocal cords to sing anything. Their standards. Deal with your damage, deal with your pitch, deal with your placement, deal with your mix, knowing how your face affects your tone, knowing how you spread you sing from your diaphragm. Every singer should from diaphragm. You should have a proper exercise routine for you as a singer. Workouts, physicals, all kinds of exercises for your physicals and for your mindset also. So everybody does that. Also, there are a lot of mental exercises we do, a lot of mental practice we do to keep your mind in the right zone, to get to the right emotion. So there's no standard way of training a singer. The standard way of training a singer is that you should train a singer to be able to sing anything you put in front of them. They cannot choose what they want to do. So if you come to a class, for example, and you have a range, let's say Burna Boy, for example, he sings pretty low. I saw him years ago singing pretty high. The arguments on how that happened, but I can tell you for sure, if Burna Boy wants to get his speed back and he comes to me, he'll get it back in a week. Now, building to become stable and strong and become consistent is a matter of maybe 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, 2 classes per week, but he can get it back in a week. If you want his speech back. So if you want to, basically how I coach is, if whatever you want in your voice, you get it back. But I will coach you to a point where the voice can do what it is designed. It's a muscle. It can take the weight. It can take the heat. And let me say this also. A lot of people say, my voice is stressed. I need to go for a vocal break. To be honest, the best thing for your voice to be doing is to be singing. But you should be singing technically sound. If you're singing with the wrong technique, you're killing your voice. it's better that you're singing, not singing at all, that's the wrong technique. But if you're singing with if you're singing with the right technique, it's safer for you to keep singing than taking vocal breaks all the time.
Okay.
Except you are highly recommended to. And that means maybe you went to see an ENT, which I think singers here also have to invest into. Be able to schedule every now and then, as the artist, every now and then, go and see an ENT, let them do an endoscopy and check what's happening with vocal cords, what's happening there.
Yeah.
I can read it. I can read it. I can see what it is. I deal with guys who have MDT, guys who have stroke, people who have come from stroke, all kinds of things, people who have reflux. So I can tell you that scheduling yourself, labels please, scheduling your artist to do an ENT every now and then, at least once or twice a year, is very important for the start a tour season.
Yeah.
We see if you see a crack or a sudden rasp or something, check it out. Get to a therapist. If you're not so sure, get to an ENT. When you're done, go to a vocal therapist or vocal coach like me to resolve the issue. So every singer, every artist should invest in training, to the strength training. There are people, so last now says, there are people who run 100 meters. How do they train? Like, they don't run a marathon. Yeah, they don't run 100 meters and they're done. But they train as if they will train as extensively as someone to run a marathon would train. So you won't say that there's no limit. So you push yourself to the point where I'm supposed to be to do this, but I can do this. Most of my artists also who have stamina issues get to do a lot of classes running on a treadmill, sitting up, pressing up. That's what I did recently. I won't call his name, but he had sit up, press ups, pull ups while singing, and they also deal with stamina. When he got on stage on his tour, stamina was a piece of cake, piece of cake.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so you have to stretch it. That's the
Okay.
truth.
All right.
But it
Thank
should
you
be
so
technically
much.
sound. You make sure you're doing it technically sound.
Yes, and you're not singing wrongly.
Yes, that's the most important thing here.
Yeah, okay. Before you leave, one piece of advice to any up and coming artists who want to dominate on stage with their sound and their performance.
If you are crazy enough to believe you are it, then you are it. Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is my personal mantra, and I've seen it happen. This is almost 30 years now as a vocal coach, as a mentor, and I do mentor and all that. But if you are crazy enough to think that you are it and you are something, I'm a Christian, and the Bible talks about how God made the world, that even the human being was made from words. So God first let us make man. God said it, then he made a body. But man was just made male and female, then blessed by words. Then he made a body and put them inside the body. So a human being is a function of words. That's why words can build or tear you down. Someone say, sticks and stones may break my bones, but your voice. It's a lie. Forget that thing. Words can kill you or make you.
Yeah.
So if you tell yourself, I am it, I'm the shizzle, you keep saying that to yourself, and you keep pushing it and keep pushing it, and keep taking the right steps, creating the right habits, and having the right system to take you from where you want to be to where you need to be, you will definitely get there.
Yeah.
It's important to attract what you want from your confidence and your belief system. I'll keep this for you to think about. And I ask the question once again. Tell me the special vocal skill that Portable has.
Okay.
Think about it.
I wouldn't know that, but maybe we would have an answer for you later on.
Okay.
But I think it would be a disservice. We've had such an amazing conversation. I think it would be a disservice to the listeners if we don't let them know how they can connect with you. We've been speaking with Frank Freon Ohikhuare. Yes, he's in the studio. He's a vocal coach known as the Choir Master, and you can follow him on Instagram at
Frank Ohikhuare.
Ohikhuare.
Or hashtag the choir master. Spelled
Hashtag,
correctly.
okay.
KWAYAMASTR. So yeah.
Okay. All right. That's the music gig. Thank you so much for being part of the show today. You can always catch the show every Friday at 2 p.m.